All right, guys, like many of you, I am self-isolated at home with this coronavirus thing going on. I've been here for 4 weeks, and I find myself with a little bit of spare time. I'm able to start trying to mess around with some of those locks that I'd categorized as, like too hard to mess with right now. And I've been playing with this little guy for about 2 days. This was sent in by Ulf from Sweden. Said he bought it on eBay for $30, no key, and he tried picking it and made several observations. He sent me a letter with some measurements of the keyway, width and height and such. And he said he thought that they were sliders inside of there, or perhaps discs that didn't seem to turn very much. So he asked me to cut it open. Before I do that, I want to mess with it. And in fact, I did. I tried picking this. I believe that Ulf is right. I believe they are discs inside of here. And I believe the discs are also separated by pieces of warding. So the question is it a warded lock, or is it a wafer lock? Is it a disc detainer lock? Or I believe it's probably a disc detainer that has some wards in there, because I'll put the wire in and they completely get seized up. So really difficult to try to figure this little guy out. I didn't think I'd ever seen an Optimus, but I have definitely seen that little keyway. The hardest part was, I don't know how it works. And so look at this. I look closer at some of the pictures, and I know I've seen that key before. When you look at these little keys, they do look like warded lock keys, but I have a lock, and this is a miracle lock. This is a U.S. issue, very, very old. These were used to secure ammunition magazines and such. The keyway on these, let me flip it around. These are literally identical to each other. I mean, the Optimus has a little groove to help slide in the key, but when I take a look at the key to this Miracle, it's got a little funnel there. So they address that in different ways. The Miracle lock works. It's a little rusty, but there you go. You can feel what I believe are probably discs, and it does work. You just got to pull really hard. A little bit rusty, but it does work perfectly. Now here's the interesting thing. Let me lock this back up so I can get the key out. Got to looking at the key, it looks just like the ones in the picture. And if you look closely at this, you can see that those are angled, just like an abloy, just like a disc detainer key would be. But why are they offset? That's the question. Probably some warding. It's probably tensioned by that piece right there, or possibly the tip. It is not tensioned by this little outer ring here. That thing just spins around. But I did notice that my Miracle key fits into, let me flip it around correctly, fits into the Optimus lock. Not quite all the way, and of course it doesn't work, but you can feel it starting to move stuff in there, but it hits warding and then bang, that's it. You're not going any further. Completely stuck. All right, so there's what we got. So I decided I was going to try to pick it. I tried wire, and then I decided to try a disc detainer. So here's what our disc detainer looks like, but unfortunately, it's a little too small for this keyway. First of all, the tensioner, the prongs there on the little ears, don't quite fit that keyway. And secondly, when you do squeeze it in there, this thing kind of spins around because it's a pretty wide keyway. So back to the drawing board, and I made an attachment for our disc detainer pick. So there's what the old one looks like. Let me flip that like so. So it's nice and wide to fit into the wider keyway. And I also created a wire more designed to spin wafers. It can spin wafers or discs if that's what it happens to be. So I slid this dude in there, and again, I got nothing, because my first assumption was I would be tensioning either by this or by that first disc, and I think I'm 100% wrong, because trying to pick it, I get absolutely nothing. So 2 days is a lot of time, even in times of coronavirus sequestration. So what I'm going to think, I think I'm going to go ahead and just cut this open, and let's see what we got in here. It's only worth $30. There's plenty of them on eBay. Not a collector's item. Please don't get pissed off, but I want to see what's inside of here. All right. Oof, that was a little easier than I thought. I just took it and milled off the top of this. This was a little spacer. The key restrictor flew off somewhere, but it fit right on the top of there. And then when that popped off, there's a little metal ring that's underneath there to hold everything in place. And this little ring has a little notch on it that fits down right there to keep that thing from spinning around, kind of lock it in place. All right. I can say with pretty high confidence that this is a wafer lock with some very large holes in the center of that. If you take a look at this, you see a cut right there in the side of the body. And there's also one on this side. And the little wafers are protruding into it. Let's pull it out. See if I can do it without dropping anything. Okay, it's not glued down. All right. Okay, there are the cutouts on both sides of that lock that those wafers protrude into. And you can see from the top of this how they stick out from both sides to prevent rotating that core. You are never going to shear those things off. So you're not going to be brute forcing this. The only way to do it is to get those wafers perfectly aligned with one of these guys. Now that raises the question, why are these angled? I mean, I was thinking it was a disc detainer, simply because those are angled. It's probably just so the key slides and moves them a little more smoothly. That's my guess. I don't know. There's no other reason why it should do that. But when you rotate it, they'll all align and they'll retract. Let me see if I can. This is all theory until you actually show it. They'll all retract. Let me squeeze them in there until they line up perfectly with the edge of the body. And then you can rotate the core and get it open. Now, of course, when you look in there now, none of those are aligned because the key would be pushing them. The way they work, when you rotate these first three look to be about the same cut. So let's take a look. Look at the length of the arms. So we'll call that the long arm. There's a long arm. There's a long arm. There's another long one. And as we keep going, there's another pretty long one. Well, he said there's a short one. See, those are more equal. So they're probably so close in terms of precision that maybe with my eye I can't detect any difference in the length of those arms, but I can't imagine all of them are bitted exactly the same. Anyway, on the back of this, you see we got two flat cutouts. That tells me this thing contains ball bearings. And let's see what we got. There's a spring in there. Let's pop him out. See if he's not crimped in there. There we go. Now you can see the ball bearings. Let me grab a light here. There's a ball bearing on the left, one on the right, and let's see if we can knock those guys loose. Maybe get it open. There we go. All right, finally an open. Nothing to it, guys. All you need is a milling machine in 2 days in order to get in here. Anyway, Ulf, I appreciate it. I really expected this to be a disc detainer. Instead, it turned out to be a wafer. And probably when I was rotating it, I was trying to force one of those short edges into that edge, and that's why the wafers weren't going anywhere. That's my only explanation. Hey, I'm looking at any excuse for failure, and that's the one I'm sticking with. Anyway, guys, appreciate your time. Stay safe, stay legal. Ulf, thank you, sir, for the lock.